Hi guys, so we're at the end of February and as promised we are going to talk about our tomato grow along today. So I'm going to be starting seeds today which are going to grow in my polytunnel or are going in hanging baskets and are therefore going to be protected from my polytunnel and then get more developed. The others we're going to wait at least another 2, maybe 3 weeks before we get those going. Those are for the ones that are going to be grown outside with no protection. But first of all, we're going to talk about the different types of tomatoes and why they might make a difference to what we're going to grow. So tomatoes are actually a perennial plant, but in our country it's suitable to grow them as an annual. So if you had something like a house tomato, which is a miniature plant, then if you gave it the right conditions you could indeed grow them through the year. You would need a grow light and things like that in order to do that. But the usual ones that we grow are either indeterminate, a vine variety, or determinate, which is a bush variety. So an indeterminate variety is ones that will grow to an undetermined size. They will just continue to get taller and taller, and those are the ones that we remove the side shoots from, in order to make sure that we get the most fruits that we can off of them. We also do this to allow enough airflow through the tomatoes to make sure that we don't encourage issues with the plants and to keep them healthy. Determinate varieties are a predetermined size, so they won't just continue to grow and grow and grow. They get to a certain size for that particular plant and then that's as far as they go. And then we also have bush varieties that can be grown in hanging baskets, things like a tumbling tom. So you want to work out which ones are going to be most suitable. If you've got an indeterminate variety, a vine one, then you are going to need to offer it quite a bit of support. I personally do this by a string that's buried under the plant and then they are fixed at the top of my polytunnel. So if you are growing them outside, then it might be easier to grow a bush variety, which may still need a cane just to make sure it's not going to fall over, but it isn't going to require as much support as the indeterminate varieties. We are still going to trim the bush varieties, but we don't need to trim them and remove their side shoots because that would actually produce less of our fruit at the end of the day. So we'll do in the grow along both different varieties and we'll go through how to keep the airflow correct and feeding them and everything like that. But for now we need to look at sowing. When you're picking your varieties, there is everything from the tiniest tomatoes, the really small cherries, right up to massive beefsteaks and beyond. So choose ones that you want. I grow mainly cooking varieties because we don't eat them fresh. And then I grow cherry tomatoes, which I then put straight into the freezer and they get added to bolognese or into pans to be roasted in the oven with different food that we have. So varieties that I'm starting today include a yellow tumbling tom, one called Garden Pearl, which is suitable for pots or hanging baskets as well, another one called Mini Bell, which again is pots or hanging baskets, and then this one's a larger pot variety, so Principe Borghese or something along those lines. They are also great for sun-dried varieties as well. Next, these are the varieties that I'm growing inside the tunnel, and these are the vine varieties, not bush types. So first of all we have a yellow vine tomato, which is a centre floor type, which is a tiny many cherries on one stem. That is new to me, so that'll be interesting to grow. And then I have this Russian Moskvich tomato. So these can be stored and can tolerate cold better than most, so I'm going to give them a go this year. I'm also going to grow San Marzano 2. This is a plum cooking variety. A Roma, which is another plum variety. This particular one is a bush. I'm getting them early, going early for next door. And then I've got Amish paste, which are really large sourcing tomatoes. I've got the ones that I've bought, and then I've also got a saved pot that I'm gonna see which seeds come through best. And then I've got one called Juggo from the Heritage Seed Library, which is a red or orange plum variety. So once again, we are going to use these trays with some sieved compost. I usually do all my tomatoes, or pretty much all of my plants, in soil blocks, but we're going to start them in the trays because I assume that's what most of you guys will do as well. So just tap those down a little bit. Okay, so our first one is the Juggo. I've got my labels ready. Just going to pop that in there. So these are not huge seeds. I'm not going to sow all of these. They're little furry seeds which are quite sweet. And then I'm just going to start with 5 of these guys. There we go. Pop those back in. Next up we've got the Amish paste. And next we're doing Aroma. Once again, most of these seeds are not brand new, so not all of them are necessarily going to germinate, but that's fine. I can always buy some more. There's plenty of time to start some more. And all we're going to do now is lightly cover the top. We don't want a huge amount over these. Okay, plenty. And then as normal, I'm going to water these from the bottom. They will have a dome on top, and they will go onto my heat mats. If you haven't got a heat mat, then just pop them somewhere warm in the house, and then they will go under my lights, and they will stay in the house usually around till mid-April, but it may be a little bit later, but that depends on the frost and things like that. But I do have a heater in my tunnel. Okay, so next we're going to do the hanging basket varieties. tomatoes originate from South America, so it's really important that these stay in the house or somewhere warm to allow them to thrive. They are not frost hardy at all, and it does quite a bit of damage to them. So if you are at any point going to put them outside, make sure that you keep an eye out for frosts, that you have frost cloths ready, or that you have a heater or something like that in your growing space. That's going to depend where you are of when that's possible to do, and mine will be planted out maybe 2 weeks usually before the last expected frost date, but then I will have a heater available should they need that protection and the frost cloths. So it really depends where you are. If your frost date is a long way off, so mine's the 1st of May, it's around 7 weeks that these are going to be inside for, then you may want to wait a couple of weeks before you get yours started.